Welcome, everybody. We've got our West Coast Mastermind for November that we're starting off here. And I'm really excited that this is another one of the masterminds where we have some guests joining us. Um, it's been so fun to find guests within the region. I'm not beholden to that. I'm definitely happy to bring in experts or affiliate owners from outside of the West Coast. But in the last couple of times we've done this, it's been some of our own. So I'm really excited to have Brian and Gabby Boucher. They're the owners of MidState CrossFit, which is middle of the state of Central California. Officially, is it Merced? Is that the city?
Officially Merced. Yep.
Officially in Merced, California, if anyone's ever been down that way. And so excited to be talking to them both about what this. I don't know if I did a good job describing it on the Instagram, little graphic that I made. But really what we're trying to get at is and when Brian and I talked before this, and I know Gabby was kind of on the call in the background when we chatted, I wanted to make sure that we're framing this in the right way because it's a multi-part thing. There is this huge um, piece of helping the community and helping the underserved and really doing something that feels good and valuable. And when you're seeing the progress in athletes that are that wouldn't maybe normally been given this type of attention, it's so exciting to see. And then there's this whole other side that, and so if either one of these drew you in as a viewer, that's great. But this whole other side of like, this is actually a substantial amount of revenue for the gym. And this is also potentially career making, income for coaches that may otherwise have not been able to make a go at it with just group classes. So I didn't want to overemphasize any one part of it and diminish another, because in our conversation, at least, it really felt like, I think we were saying it was like a win-win-win, right? It
Yeah.
was like win for the athlete, win for the coach, win for the gym. We also really were thinking initially that this was great for the West Coast because that we're going to get into some of the details about how to get this kick started. And Brian and Gabby being in California, they're like, we don't want to speak about other states, but this is how it happened in California. This is the website you can look at. And then we did a little quick search, and I think I searched Washington first. And so if you are out of state, we're thinking we know it's across the US, a national kind of thing, but you just may need to go a little bit more roundabout way. So if you guys have questions throughout as we're talking, let us know and we'll make sure to get those answered. But just MidState CrossFit, you guys just hit your 10-year mark, right? October 2014, you said, was there when you guys opened. So 10-year affiliate owners here. And what I was going to have you guys start off with was just a little bit about this adaptive program, but taking a step back, like, how did this even come to be? Like, there was maybe nothing, you didn't necessarily see another gym doing this. So what made you decide to start down this path?
No, thank you. That was a really great introduction. And so Brian, Gabby Boucher, and thank you all for coming and talking to us about this. We got into CrossFit in all the very normal ways. We wanted to get fit, and we found a website in 2012. My first workout was from the girls poster, and they broke it down into the body weight and all the different colors like orange and purple. And we did Cindy. And so Gabby's a gymnast by background here in the California area. I'm originally from New England, and we came to the West Coast in our grad program. And we've been doing classic CrossFit for the majority of those 10 years. Then one day, Gabby's cousin, Kathy, brings in her son, Adam, who I've known over many years, who is, for all intensive purposes, absolutely nonverbal, tics, severe autism is the word. All of these words of vernacular, and that's how you were navigating all those words just now. And we also feel that sometimes, right? How is the right way to describe somebody that is like has minor, moderate, or severe disabilities? And like, how do you describe that so that you're both like trying to be kind, but also be able to express who we're talking about? And what we're talking about is, for the majority, people that have things that used to maybe be called feeble-mindedness, minor, moderate, severe mental disabilities, some with schizophrenia, some have genetic abnormalities that cause them to have special needs, these sort of individuals. So Adam comes to us, and for all intents and purposes, I cannot communicate with him. I'm communicating with his mom. And, you know, we've known each other for years, a family connection. We're all very nice to one another. And Adam has this board, and it's an A through Z semi-translucent alphabet thing, numbers, exclamation marks. And him and his mom, this kid that's not making eye contact with me, he's got the earmuffs on, he's clearly like feeling maybe what I can see is overstimulated. And he pokes at this board, and she like throws words away, and they just say like, the vibes in here are awesome. I'm like crying. Now we're all crying because this kid who you can't imagine is literate. He's literate, but him and his mom have this whole language of communication. And we all kind of looked at each other and said, will you stick around in the backside? And like, if I have any questions, can you like come over here with that board and we'll like talk about air squats and push-ups? And she was like, fuck yeah, I'll do that. And I was like, well, do we want to try this out? And we didn't have any scaffolding for this. This is very much like hey, we want to come in and have a conversation. And we were like, yeah, let's do that. And then we were like, oh no, we want to train Adam. Adam deserves to do CrossFit too. And then she brings to us that the best way forward is to coordinate with a NGO or whether or not it's a nonprofit or a non-governmental organization, that's not quite clear to me, but it's called the Regional Center System. So quick numbers just off the top of my head, there are 300,000 individuals that are serviced by the regional centers in California alone. And there was 0, now there is 1 fitness facility for 45 square miles that would service these individuals because of liabilities, because of corporatism, because we don't want that hassle, we don't want that headache. And Gabby and I were like, oh, I'll take that hassle, we'll take that headache. And we then went through a months-long process, not complicated, but definitely bureaucracy, in which you had to just go through the steps. You had to be vetted, there had to be background checks, there had to be systems in place for safety. As far as like the ADA, like the Americans Disabilities Act, we had to show that we had made reasonable accommodations through a site visit. None of this stuff was very complicated. There was a lot of hand-holding, lots of emails, lots of questions, Q&A backing us between them and the service coordinator. Our ace in the hole was having a mom that really cared about their kid and wanted to do CrossFit or just fitness in general. She didn't know what she was signing up for, but she knew that we cared. She knew that we did exercise, and she wanted her son to have that opportunity too. He, through his board, has let us know that he wanted to be a firefighter, and his stupid body just can't let him do it. And like all these like heartfelt things. And he's like, really? That's inside your brain, Adam? He does poetry? It's crazy. It's wild. So through the system, we came up with that we're going to lean into personal training for this individual type, with the goal being that maybe in the not so distant future, if the person, the individual is a right fit, they could have almost like a teacher's aide in a general pop group CrossFit class. And we already have those, and we can talk more about how this has blossomed into a larger project. But over the course of, what'd you say, Gabby, about 6 months, we became what is called vendorized. And now what happens is we have 3 pillars that we aim for. One is very classic personal training, where us and our individual, myself and the athlete, one of my other coaches and the athlete, they're doing CrossFit. The level of intensity is absolutely different. The flow of the class, rep schemes, goals for that particular like cycle or day are you think put your goals at a distant horizon, sort of some Greg Glassman stuff. Imagine that times 10 for some of these athletes, because you're working on like grip strength and hypermobility and things of that nature. Language barriers due to this nonverbal nature. And we do CrossFit with these individuals 3 days a week, Our youngest athlete currently is, how old is Samantha?
7.
7 years old. Our oldest athlete is Hazel. He's 50 something.
Yeah, 54.
54. And a lot of people sort of speckled in the 20-year-old section. There's individuals that are absolutely cared for, loved on, doted on. They have people that have their back. And we have other people that like, we might be now officially the people that care the most about them. And it's super cool. It's incredibly rewarding. It is complicated. So there is a level of impact that we are providing that is psychosocial as well as physiological. Like we are making adaptive change, improved grip strength, muscular tone, range of motion. We document each session. Into each session, the coach will do a debriefing, like written down, nothing crazy, but an after action report on how that particular training cycle went, with the goals of one day maybe sharing that with UC Merced, which is a research institution, and see if we can get a grad student to do their PhD on this type of thing, CrossFit and autism. And we are now up to, is it 14? 14 total clients. Adam is rocking and rolling. His kyphosis has improved. His grip strength has improved. He can farmer carry 53-pound kettlebells, 2 hands. We posted recently our Instagram, Leo, who picked up a 30-pound medicine ball. It was, quote, the heaviest thing he's ever picked up. We've had people that have needed to be hospitalized for some seizure stuff, and then they've come back around. And there's really like a level of, there's obviously the individual. That individual has a physician's team, or they maybe have a care provider, but there's also now the service coordinator that's part of that conversation. And we're in constant communication beyond just like the athlete and them. And all of this is paid for and facilitated by these service coordinators who just want to provide resources to these outpatients that need stuff. Again, we were 45 square miles. So there was nobody above Modesto. There was nobody south of Fresno. And I don't know how far east or west we would need to go to find somebody, but it was likely like San Jose. So that's what we're doing. I'd love to talk a little bit more, but I'll let you talk for a moment, Katie.
No, this is great. I've got a bunch of notes about what we were talking about, and I didn't want to over prioritize one. I'll let if there's a specific question first to direct. Otherwise, we kind of have, we're going to get to everything, but I didn't, if someone's train of thought is they wanted to ask a little bit more about either the athletes or the process. So one thing I wanted to dive into a little bit was how you were saying you guys are tracking everything and that this is like a personal session essentially. So when we were talking ahead of this, Brian, it was like, we have to make sure that this is clear. This isn't like a get rich quick scheme. This is all about, if you're first and foremost, is it's supposed to be something you or your athletes or you or your coaches are passionate about. Just like if you wanted to take on a kids program, right? You want to make sure you find the coach or coaches that really enjoy working with kids, or as you know, if you've tried it and it's not worked, it will never have legs if there isn't that person. And maybe it's you. You're like, I own the gym and I love working with kids and that's my background. And we're going to have a kick-ass kids program because I care about it and I enjoy doing it. I think this is very similar, that because it is, and Brian, you had kind of described it too. Some people aren't as comfortable in an environment where they're working with an adaptive athlete that is having either neurological struggles or tics or being nonverbal, and having to get creative about communication and understanding and getting on the same page with someone. And so just keeping that in mind, anyone that's looking to take this on, that you want to make sure you have the right people in place on your staff. If it's going to be you, that's awesome. And Brian, you and Gabby are a big part of this, but also just making sure that it is something that you can take on, because you kind of explained the tiers a little bit. It's kind of the 3 tracks of personal, one-on-one, small group, but as you explained to me, in a small group setting of other adaptive athletes, it is still one-on-one, right? So it's going to be one athlete and their assigned trainer, another athlete, their assigned trainer, maybe 2 or 3, right? And then the next tier above that would be into the general population class, but the individual coach would still be assigned to the athlete.
Yeah, you nailed it. That is our absolute. So the way this came into iteration is Adam was our first athlete. Actually, no, didn't Charlie sneak in?
Yeah.
It was something like that. We soon as people realize that you have to understand that this is a population base that is incredibly underserved. And when you find families or families find you because they realize that resources have become available for them, especially in regards to the health and well-being of the individual, this was immediately noticed by several different families in the area, and they were all about it. They're like, wait, what is this? So how the intake works is I'll take one step back before that. When we were trying to figure out how to do this, we went through assessment forms, and Nikki, who is on the call, I actually called her from Destination CrossFit in Walla Walla, Washington. And I was like, yo, all of these forms keep leading me to tell the people no. And I'm trying to find yeses. So we had to create our own intake form, which was very basic, and allowed us to get to the next step, which was an in-person assessment. So first they have to give us like basic demographics and a story of who they are. Nothing complicated. We could absolutely share that with the community, but you would need to make it your own. It would be really just a blueprint. Every affiliate's a little bit different. Then they do an in-person assessment. This is where the real work begins. It's myself, Gabby, the care provider, sometimes the service coordinator, the individual, and anybody else who we think is a proper stakeholder for that individual. We all come together and we have a conversation about basically what you just said. What you're signing up for is CrossFit. CrossFit is functional fitness. I don't give them a lot of words, but I tell them I'm going to help you sit, stand, fall down, get back up, jump, pull, push, things of this nature. And that's really about as far as we go in really describing of what we're doing. And then we describe the tracks that you just did. We tell them you could do this for 9 sessions. You could do this for 90 sessions. You could do this for 900 sessions. Sometimes the athlete's going to be all about it and they are like, their vigor is there. And sometimes they're going to be like, nah, bro, not today. And we just chalk up every day as a win that they even showed up. We communicate daily, like at the beginning of each day. I communicate with who's going to come in. Hey, so-and-so, I'll see you at 12. And that's literally every day. I'm not doing that for all of my athletes, but for all of our adaptive athletes, that's what they get. They get a preemptive communication to either their ride or themselves. And we just communicate that way all the time. So it's very administrative heavy, but there's no way that Daniel, who's one of our clients, is receiving daily text messages from a person that cares about him 3 months ago. Like that definitely, some of these family just being like, hey, Daniel, I'm really looking forward to seeing you. And he's seeing that for the first time. It really is quite impactful, to the point like we're all sort of dumbstruck and our jaw drops pretty often when we see what would look like a nothing physical application. And then we all know where they started, but you have to want to do it because it takes a really long time. And that was what you said recently, just a moment ago, about like the hesitancy to take on these clients was actually a learning curve for us. We brought this to our coaching staff at a coaches meeting, and we said, we're doing this thing. And we actually had quite a bit of hesitancy. Full transparency, my brother John is Down syndrome, so I've been living in I have been aware of special needs in this community my whole life, and it's very normal to me, but it's not normal for everybody. This is, there is some people haven't been exposed to what severe autism looks like, or tics, or a child screaming and being generally nonverbal. That could be quite alarming to them. And if you don't want to go into that, one, you don't have to. But we wanted to, and so it's a duality. it's so impactful, but there is a struggle. And if you want to do it, it can be right. It can be incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. And I think another interesting thing, as you were explaining it, you're saying, I didn't know about the check-ins ahead of time. I love that accountability. I think they're really, you're showing the value there is so much beyond the training as it's the connection. And I do think you mentioned to me, you know, some of the videos that you shared with me and that have gone up on Instagram, those are also being sent to this, as you call it, the stakeholders, because it's a larger group of caretakers, sometimes parents, different people involved. And so they're also seeing the progress in real time of what someone was able to do. And that to me doesn't feel so much of a leap. I training like a bunch of teens. If someone hits a new lift or gets a new achievement or first pull up, those videos are getting sent to the parent in real time from my gym. So that to me tracks. That's not, I don't want to say easy, but like for a lot of us, that's stuff that's maybe already happening. The kind of check-in before might be a little bit of a new, got to stay organized and on top of that. And then just something for anyone that's kind of looking at like how the program progresses and how you've always got that trainer alongside the athlete, that translates into personal training rates across the board, regardless of if they're in group class or not. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. So as you work through ours is called the Central Valley Regional Center, but for the state of California, we're talking specifically about the regional centers. So I believe you would go to
So
the
that website.
Disabilities Regional Center or some version of that.org. That would
This
be
is the
your, yep.
California one, and if you guys
Yeah,
click on it in the chat, the center icon says regional centers up at the top, and you can see a map of where they're at in California. I did a quick search for developmental services Washington State, and there was a similar named website, so similar to Idaho, Hawaii. If you guys just search for developmental services and your state name, you should be able to find the government agency that would list, or again, we don't know if it's a government agency once
yeah,
you
it's
get to
not
the
clear to
regional
me.
level,
It
but
says .gov. So,
yeah, it
but
says .gov, but then when you're in the regional center, I'm not quite sure how each state organizes it. But if you guys need help, like let us know. We can help you sleuth about and try to find it. But if you're California, that would be the website to start. And then regional centers is where you can find.
I would be absolutely remiss just to say that, like, how did we navigate the bureaucracy? That's why she's here. She absolutely did all the paperwork and followed up on all of the emails. Gabby was very organized throughout the process. If you are not ready to be administrative heavy, this is not a project that I would take on. But if you already have somebody that is in that role and has the bandwidth to navigate a government bureaucracy, imagine your health insurance, imagine all of those sort of like real nitty gritty, nobody wants to do this. That's the barrier of entry, but it's not a brick wall. They want services. The stories I hear about how these families have received services or like things from the regional center, there's not enough resources. They're banging down the door for things that really matter. Yeah, there's day programs. Yeah, you could get a toothbrush, right? But that's really what we're talking about here. We're talking about them coming into a CrossFit gym and doing CrossFit. That's a completely different, awesome monster, in my opinion, for these people. And it's just so cool. Are all of these trainers CFL ones or better? Are you paid by the state? Okay, so I'll hit the first question. All of my staff are CrossFit certified. I only have one coach currently that's an L1. Everybody else is L2 or more. Gabby holds our kids certification. We have 2 L3s. We have a robust coaches development program internally. So all of our coaches are receiving ongoing continuing education at a pretty constant clip, including quarterly evaluations, daily feedback. Even just before we started the meeting, my coach and I were talking about how a class went as like a brief feedback, and she was giving, her thoughts about her class. So we already come.
And you did mention with this program, you guys have sort of like a spreadsheet for notes in the event that a different trainer is working with the same athlete So, and was it also like a text thread of some kind, or group chat where you
It
guys would
is,
get other
it
info?
is absolutely a Google Doc, but
Okay.
everybody has access to that Google Doc. So it's all 12 athletes, or 14 now, have their own file with a brief description. In an ideal world, you're like, Katie has a coach and they're with that coach all the time, but we make it very clear that at any time and the schedule needs to change, someone gets sick, you don't have your personal trainer. What you have is MidState CrossFit.
Right.
You're just receiving personal training services, and then are you paid by the state? So this is where the service coordinator comes. This is where the service center comes in, the regional center. So we charge personal training prices to do this program. It is what you've probably taken away is it's pretty robust. Yes, it is an hour of training a day, 3 times a week, but we have made it into something that's very organized, and they're receiving one-on-one training. So that comes at one-on-one training cost. So we charge $100 per session, assuming that we're going to do about 12 sessions per month, sometimes more, sometimes less. How does the Monday, Wednesday, Friday work? And then that gets paid directly by the regional center. So none of the money that is being generated is coming from the families specifically. For the most part, these are socially economically strained families. Like, let's make that very clear. Like, this is an underserved population. All of their additional resources during their prime money-making time came to, let's ensure that my child probably has the best possible services available. And that makes it so it's hard to navigate life sometimes. And we see that across the board. There's a version of that. If we didn't do it this way, then these people would never been able to do CrossFit, because the boutique fitness, the premium service, the quality, all of those things become, we start having conversations about socioeconomics. But because it's coming from the state, all of those issues get thrown out the window, because 1, they want the service. 2, there's not enough people providing the service. And 3, that's what personal training costs.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. So for an L3, L4 coach at MidState CrossFit, it's $75 to $100 per hour per session. If you just wanted to come and do an hour of training, that's what it costs. So to do the same service, we just mirrored that. What the regional center really wanted.
Yeah, that's one of the requirements from the regional center, is that you couldn't upcharge them. So it had to be the same pricing that you would charge just the person off the street. So that was one of their big requirements. So you have to prove that that's what you charge versus what they're charging.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you can see why
Yeah.
that is the moral and correct thing to do. We should not be upcharging because we're charging the state. No, we are charging exactly what we would have charged otherwise. We just happen to be funding it through a government stream that would have been allocated to these individuals anyway.
So then are you invoicing the regional center? Are you entering them into your membership software the same way? And like how do things, you wouldn't ever want a bill to come across there. Yeah. She's like Gabby. You don't want that to
So
come
I'm
across
not
them
putting
or their
them,
parents.
I'm not putting them into our training software, only because most of them don't even have access to get onto the, like if we use sugar water, whatever, most of them don't have access to do that anyways. And then so they just stay on the side, and they're invoiced through the resource center has their own invoicing system. So you have to go be part of that and then enter all their stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
One thing I've noticed from the service coordinator side of things is every service coordinator does something a little different. There's
That's
like
nice.
there's like 80 service coordinators just to our region. So imagine, and they probably have a caseload of like what, 30 to 50, 40-hour work week, how many people are they servicing? A lot. And so again, 300,000 Californians. We were the only training facility that wanted to do this.
Ferdinand, we will definitely get to your question. That's a big one that we already talked about, but I have Adam's hand raised, so I'm gonna let him fire away right now.
Two questions. One, do you guys have to bill in advance? So I work with the community interface, or I work with a regional center in San Diego, but we have to bill through a third party called CIS, Community Interface Services. And so like you guys said, we plan out how many training they need. And so if it's like, 3 sessions per week for a month, we bill it all out. But there's like been an issue, like there hasn't been an issue. There's been a moral issue, I guess, on my end, because like if I have a client who has, they forget to schedule their MTS visits, we still essentially are billing them because like we have like a block of time that we've already billed them for. So whether they're showing up or they're not showing up, we're still getting paid, which is good for like the short notice cancellations where my coach shows up and then the client doesn't arrive, and that's fine. But there's also been times where it's like, hey, like I'm sick, I'm not going to come this week. We've already essentially charged them for that block of time. And so there's like a little bit of a moral issue for me. Like, we have this money now that they've paid us for. Like, do you guys have that same issue billing directly with the regional centers, or do you guys also bill through like interface services?
Yeah, so we set it up so that we're actually billing monthly. So not per session or per week. Like it is $1,200 per month, whether they come or not. And that was told to them from the very beginning, to the resource center. That was told to them that that's how we wanted to do it. So we built it that way, that this is a month membership, just like our members have. So it's not per session per se.
No, we have that. I know exactly what you're saying. Okay. So like you have a month membership, but you're not using it for this week. In the way that I rationalize, at some point in time, we're going to have a waiting list. Like like I had allocated 20 spots in my mind's eye of what my bandwidth for my team was. I'm at 14. So if I'm going to get to the point of a waiting list, my number, and I think Gabby and we've discussed this together, is you have to be at my gym at least once in that month, or we start having hard conversations. But morally standing on the opposite side of that, one of my athletes had to be hospitalized, and it was of none of his fault, right? This just happens to be his making. And if I do have a waiting list and I take him off the list, I won't be able to just put him back. So it is a fine line between I want to be fair and I also want to take care of people. But I can't turn the spigot on and off. It's just not how the regional centers work. And so, Adam, I know exactly what you're saying. The way I get behind this in my own mind's eye is if I'm not doing this for them, no one is. And so that's how I really get behind the idea of like, okay, they didn't come today. That's okay. I don't know if they had poor sleep. I don't know if they had a seizure. I don't know if they've had some sort of like aches. Some of my athletes are going to become paraplegic and they're not right now. Like there's a lot going on that is far beyond just they didn't go to the gym, they're not using it. Now that is true of some of my other CrossFit athletes, and it's not like I call them either and be like, hey, you didn't show up this month, I'm canceling you. That's definitely not what I'm doing.
Well, and that's the difference, I think, too, is that you check in with them. You're not just like, oh, they didn't show up, who cares, like, no, what's going on, what happened, do you need help, like all these things. Like we're not just like, oh, okay,
All right, so and so didn't show up. All right, again. It's just it is. I know what you mean, but it's complicated.
That kind of cover that, Adam. I think that's a good way of thinking of it, is the imagining the wait list. Actually, my hope is that that's how regular gym memberships work for a lot of people, that you get to the point where you're like, I'm not pausing memberships. If I do that, you're going to have to start back over with the entry. This is we have a waiting list situation. And I've talked to affiliates not too far from me that are doing that. They're at capacity for their unlimited memberships. And so they actually do have a waiting list. And if someone says, well, I was going to go out of town for a couple of weeks, can I pause my membership? They're like, you're going to have to start back over and pay the initial fees again and this and that. They're like, that's okay, I'll just keep paying it. And that's their way to kind of work around that. But anyway, Ferdinand's question is something that we talked a little bit about. I realizing I didn't take a ton of notes at it because I think I was more just awestruck with some of the things you were saying, which is some of the progress that you've been seeing in athletes, but also I don't remember if you said when the program began for you guys. When did you get approved? And
We're about 4 months in.
Okay.
And it seemed nothing seems to be really curving it at this point. If anything, it's going too fast. At this point, we're like holding onto the reins real tight. And so I'll give it, it's all anecdotal.
Yeah.
But to a certain degree measured. For example, run, cadence, form, technique. I have videos of them running on my assault runner in the first day, and now I see their coordination, agility, balance, accuracy, all greatly improving, and it's visual, but it's not quantitative. It's not like I'm measuring their mile time. They will just walk. All of a sudden, you could tell them all you want. Sometimes they're just going to walk. Charlie did Chad yesterday. He did 500 step-ups to a 12-inch box.
Wow.
Like Charlie was not doing Chad 4 months ago. Right. So that is both measurable and non-quantitative. And so individuals can now lift with a barbell in the front squat. That's just like CrossFit. I can't measure the front rack position. I'm not pulling out calibers and getting degrees of inches, but I can definitely get Justin in a front rack right now and get him squat. Sometimes he gets his heels up, but I'll get his heels back down. And so we share this type of information on the daily evaluation form. And you could go to the top of the list and you would see subjective data points right down the line. And then you can find objective findings from that. But that's why we're keeping all the notes. We're keeping all the notes because we hope that we are CrossFit enthusiasts and gym rats, and we hope to have some smarty pants come to us as we, put our fishing lines out and get a grad student or a medical institution to look at what we're doing and be like, okay, how can we go from subjective data points to more objective data points? I'll give you another one. Adam sleeps at night. Prior to doing CrossFit, Adam never slept at night. What that does now is his mother, Kathy, now she sleeps at night.
Yeah.
So yeah, we could.
That might have been the biggest win you mentioned.
Yeah.
Bigger than, wow.
Because prior to that, and I made it very clear, because she came to us with this data point that we wouldn't know. We only know because we communicate on this back end journey that we're on. And she writes this long thing, like, I just want to tell you, and then it's the whole thing about sleep. Adam does not sleep. He's not a sleeper. He hasn't slept in 25 years. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, Adam sleeps 6 hours, 6 hours in the night, which is a complete life-altering change for not only him, the individual, but now his family. Now his mother's sleeping. Now his father's sleeping. Now the siblings in the home, they're sleeping better too. And they used to have to co-sleep with an adult male because of his whatever. And now they don't need to do that. He goes to his bed, they close the door, he goes to sleep. Subjective versus objective.
And we talked a little bit about how the program, like you said, they're hour-long sessions, whether they're in the individual small group or group setting, but the degree of programming that maybe would fall on the trainer is very minimal, in that in the hour-long session, you're not cramming in a lot of volume. There's a simplicity to the program. I don't know if I remember if you said that there was kind of progressions that you guys share across the group, or if it's really much more basic than that. And all I was comparing that to is like the load, as someone that's done days worth of 7 hours of personal training sessions, and it's mentally exhausting as a trainer to then write another day of 7 hours of personal sessions, and you're trying to progress everyone and fill the hour but not overwhelm them, and it's a heavy programming task as a trainer. This to me doesn't feel like a heavy pre-planning, write out a lot of programming situation.
This is one of those, it's good to have a plan and then just know that you can abandon it at any second, because wherever the athlete is in that cognitive space on that given day fluctuates wildly. And the first few days, it's just kind of feeling each other out, feeling comfortable in the space. But we do a lot of body weight gymnastics in the CrossFit space, movement patterning, and we do a lot of very simple movements over and over again. We probably about 10 staples. But the dynamic loading, snatches, clean and jerks, these are so far away from what we're doing, but it's physiological or psychological tolerances. You're really leaning closer to like a kid's program than you are like a classic CrossFit intensity WOD.
Sure. Without diminishing the impact that you guys have, like you said, the first thing of this is like make an impact, do good in the community. Do you mind sharing a little bit of the numbers as far as how this has benefited the trainers in terms of their monthly income and the gym as well, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, absolutely. That's no problem at all. So it's pretty simple math. We charge $1,200 per month per client. And so and I like doing the math over the course of a year. I tell people right away that doesn't matter what fitness methodology you use, nothing's happening in 30 days. My goal is longevity. My goals, our building says building lifelong fitness. We're really in the long haul for our clients. We make that clear really early and really obviously when they sign up with us. Like what we're trying to create is habits. And the only way we're going to get there is through longevity. So we talk about years long goals, especially for these individuals who consistency is essential. All right, to the numbers. So $1,200 times one athlete times 12 months is $14,400 just for that one athlete. All right. So if I was like, okay, I have the bandwidth for 5 clients. So that'd be Monday, Wednesdays, Fridays, 5. I could reasonably say that take home for that particular individual person is $72,000. 5 athletes, 5 hours, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 1 to 2 coaches, $72,000. That's pre-taxes and all of those things, but that's a full-time job. You and a pretty good one. I would argue if you make $72,000 a year helping autistic people on 3 days a week, that's pretty fucking awesome. I don't know if I can cuss on this, but that seems like a nice way to live your life. That's 15 hours of work. That is very reasonable. And honestly, you're only doing about 30 to 40 minutes of training with these individuals. Done. They'll let you know. They're done. And then about 20 minutes of hanging out, debriefing, and taking notes. So you can do all of it in that hour window. All right, well, make it 10. 1,200 times 10 times 12 months is $144,000 additional to the affiliate. And we really want our coaches to feel like professionals. So we give them 60% of that. So MidState and all the administrative stuff that Gabby is doing specifically, and then I am, facilitating through coaching development, and we just times that by 0.6. Then if you had, for those 10 clients, to the coaching staff, just the coaching staff, they'd receive $86,400. But no one's shaking any fists at $86,000. So we wanted to get to 20. We think that 20 is like when we start to break the systems. 20. Well, let's start at 1,200 times 20 times 12 months is $288,000 of additional revenue to the affiliate. Now you have to want to do it. If you had 20 clients, 20 individuals with minor, moderate, severe autism, spectrum, ADHD, behavioral issues, like Downs, some other psychosis-like things, bipolar, schizophrenia. I'm not saying these are things that our clients have currently, that they are managing and dealing with, and we're in the fight with them now. That's a lift. But for that lift, you get to be taken care of too. And this doesn't include all of our mid-state stuff and all of our community things. And what's really cool about, even though there's some revenue to that, is when Charlie does 500 step-ups at 12 inches amongst all the people that did Chad yesterday, that is dollars great. That is so freaking cool. Like, and we get to like, and because you're this trainer, you're standing there right with them, like, nope, knees over toes, full hip extension. You can go, come on. That is just such a rewarding lifestyle. And now you can actually live that lifestyle with, like, the bills paid.
I think it's really cool too, because we were talking about how your current membership base, it is becoming so commonplace that someone knows someone that is affected by one of these different adaptations, right? Like, oh, a coworker of mine has a son or a nephew or a niece, right, that is struggling with this. Could I refer them to you, right? And while you are going through the regional center for recommendations, referrals, if you will, and word of mouth between adaptive athletes that are seeing progress, right? He's sleeping at night. His mom's going to tell their friend, she's going to bring her athlete that, her child that's also struggling. But even current members that may have someone affected by this might let them know, and then they can go to their provider and say, hey, I want this.
There's a major need. So if you go to Good Energy, or if you look up anything from the recent stuff from Casey Means, 1 in 32 Americans are going to be diagnosed on the spectrum currently. And in California specifically, the number's 1 in 22. Now, I don't know why there's an uptick or, but 1 in 8 Americans live in California, and 1 in 22 of them will have some sort of like cognitive disability in which they will need assistance. At some point in time, things like outpatient programs, such as the regional center, can get involved. And we as a society are going to need these people to at least be capable enough to get up off the floor when they fall down, push and pull, jump, be able to sit and stand back up. The CrossFit. If we had, and if they're sleeping at night, I can't measure this yet, but I bet you Adam's attitude is a lot better toward the people that are around him, making the people that care for him that much more capable. And so there's this giant impact trickle effect that, one, underserved, 45 square miles. We're the only ones, right? There's more than enough people for more affiliates to get involved with this project for sure. And 2, like, society's going to need it. Like, they're definitely going to need it.
Carson had asked how many days a week, and I, like, Ferdinand commented, but I think you said 3. Yeah. 3 days a week.
And, if it's of a holiday and the holidays are coming up, I'm definitely going to cancel on Christmas, not bat an eye about it. I'm definitely going to close on Thanksgiving and not worry about it. Like, it's totally okay. We are doing so much good already. There's no reason to be like, okay, well, I'm charging this for this. Well, I have unlimited memberships. Yeah. Your limited membership is still personal training. And it does not bother me on any sort of like moral or ethical level. We're just doing a lot of good.
I think you set, like you said, a fair price given what you charge for others, and not to be callous about it, but because the money is coming from the regional center and not the individual families, I think there is an understanding that you're, like you said, you're reserving that spot for them when you're paying that monthly fee, so that program will be there for them. And I guess this is just my opinion. It doesn't seem to me like a reach when there is, a singular holiday where that one day is not available for them to schedule sessions. There's plenty of other days for them to schedule in their sessions of the month. And
there's no issue to that. I don't find any issue to that at all.
Does anyone have any other questions about any of the logistical side of things? I can follow up in an email. Like, I know, Brian, you had mentioned you guys had made your intake form with a little bit of the help from Nikki. I can definitely share that and remind everyone that this would just be more of an example and to definitely make it their own, but just some framework. Yeah, Mitch, question.
Do you guys try to schedule it during busy hours, or do you guys try to do most of your scheduling through like kind of your off hours? Like, how does that work as far as scheduling goes?
It really depends. So, like with Adam, he is noise sensitive. So he has to be at a time where we can turn off all the fans, all the music, everything needs to be off. But Charlie, on the other hand, is like right next to the class doing his stuff.
He's such a
So
gangster.
it just really depends on their schedule and then what their needs are.
We have a duo of Jaden and Leo, and they do small group one. So I'm coaching, and Erin, our general manager, is coaching another. And Leo literally calls Jaden the enemy, and they get after it, and like, which is ridiculous, but also hilarious.
That's awesome. Yeah, having been at a gym that did have a program like this that was just getting started, there was a certain number of clients that had to come in a certain time of day when all the lights could be turned off because they were also photosensitive, and that there were no sounds. So music was off and there couldn't be heavy bars being dropped in any way. So I think it all depends on the individual.
We've also said no to individuals kindly. Like when you do that in-person assessment, they have to want to do it. You have to know that you feel confident that you're just doing the best you can to service them. And then from there, it has to be a yes for everybody. We've had people come in and they we're immediately a klepto. And I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And then, and that's okay. That's okay. It doesn't have to be for everybody. There's so many people that can be helped. And you just have to make sure that within your best guess, you're communicating right. And if things do go awry and you're like, this might not have been a good fit, we have all this documentation. We're super kind about it. We might communicate with the service coordinator and the parents or the care provider. And we're just like, hey, we tried and we wanted to, and we've had those scenarios already as well. And it just is what it is.
Tracy had a question, and then I know Ferdinand was asking about having them mix into the regular classes. So Tracy, what was your question?
Hey, actually, not so much a question, but a little bit of resource, Brian and Gabby. So this population is one of my favorite populations, and I've hesitated to bring them into CrossFit, but I was a dance ability teacher, and I've taught group dance classes with a variety, right? Like everyone in every state all at once, and it's brilliant, right? And performed. So mostly I wanted to just bring that up, and similar work, really different because the content is so much more specific with CrossFit. But if you haven't come across Alito Alessi, look up his work. You can see his TED Talks will come up, all kinds of things come up. The reason I bring him up is that place around access for people, if it's their first time ever working with this population, his training provides some of the best, clearest, specific, accessible, successful ways of communicating, of relating on all the different levels, right? Physical, visual, oral. And I think the integration with how he trains trainers will just make anyone working in the CrossFit sphere with this population just 1,000 times more effective. So check him out.
Thank you so much for that. I would be remiss to tell you that we are making it up as we go along. I feel confident in our abilities to be CrossFit trainers and to be awesome at facilitating exercise, but you don't know what you don't know. And often that is the case. And we're just making it work and having individual relationships, but I super do appreciate the feedback for additional training. And we will all be reaching out to, in February, we'll be in Reno, Nevada, most of MidState CrossFit at the adaptive athlete training that Kevin Ogar and Alec, the ATA, I apologize. And so we will be there, but I love that. Thank you so much, Tracy.
Yeah, awesome. Maybe we'll meet you there. And look up Danceability. His Danceability
I
International is
just put it
kind
in
of
the
his big
chat. Thank you,
company.
Tracy. I found
Yeah.
it and put it in the chat, and I
I
spelled
really
it.
great.
appreciated somebody spelling Alito correctly as
Yeah.
well. We
Well,
Yeah.
I searched it by spelling it wrong, but it still came up. So now I spelled it right, put it in the chat.
Yeah.
Ferdinand's
And
question, I think, was about, oh, sorry, Tracy, were you not done?
oh, I just want to add one more thing in terms of for his work, if anybody does it, the place where it gets you into the framework and physical space in your own body for the people you're working with will just give you tons of information. So that's all. Thanks you guys so much for your work.
No, thank you, Tracy. You're awesome.
Ferdinand, that was a good question. I think that was something that I was kind of, we started talking a little bit about the different tiers where you had an individual session, a small group, kind of what you described, where there's maybe two people in the room at the same time, and then are they integrated into the regular class? And I think the short answer is that was the goal for some, but that they would never not have the one-on-one coach with them if that was the case.
Yeah, I'll reiterate it just because this is like a huge piece of the puzzle. So it's got to be, so you come in for your intake assessment. You always start at one-on-one. You always start at a one-on-one personal training experience with the ability to move across the spectrum or move back depending on the needs. Like, for example, we've got Charlie and he's essentially working in group class. He may do things different from the day, but his coach, John, has him, and they are going to navigate class while class is going on. If there's something that is like, we're not participating in that, we'll just do something else. And if there's something he can, then we'll integrate. But always, no matter what, John's either got him to make sure that Charlie doesn't get squirrely. He doesn't get squirrely. Or that he just needs additional guidance in the room, aiming for safety, efficacy, efficiency, all the same things that we would do in CrossFit, except like a teacher's aide, he's in there in that group class. And if maybe sometimes Charlie's just not feeling it, John has autonomy and full authority to make good trainer decisions and just be like, hey, we're going in the back room. We're not going to do any of that today. We're rowing. And cool, because what does it matter? We just need Charlie moving with some version of intensity 3 or more days a week, and we'll give him homework over the weekend. Like, hey, you have to go on a 45-minute walk with your mom. But now I've got his mom walking 45 minutes on the weekend. What does that do? Subjective versus objective data. We don't know the level of good. We're just really indulging the idea of we're people's life coaches, we're people's coaches. Like when I say coach and I say athlete, I really mean that, not just in the confines of the building, but like in life. And so that's really what we're trying to provide.
Well, I think it's awesome. I'm so excited for anyone that's looking to take this on because, as we said, having an impact on especially underserved groups. And I think this kind of idea can translate to a lot of different areas. If this may not be the group that you're going to specifically target, there's always another underserved group that could use this kind of attention and this framework. Maybe it's not a regional center, but there are, I know other affiliate owners that are looking into getting funding through different programs for veterans or other athletes that are still struggling with different types of either financial struggle where they can't afford it, but we know they need it, right? So get creative. If you have something cool to share and you'd like to talk about it to our group, please let me know. Brian reached out and just shot me a note one time. He's like, we're doing amazing things, sent me a few videos, and I was like, we got to talk about this. He's also going to be at the Saturday gathering that we're doing up at Diablo CrossFit. He's going to be talking a little bit about this program as well, and just trying to pique some people's interest as well as talking about his affiliate as a whole. So thank you both again. If anyone has any additional questions, you guys can shoot them over to me and I can make sure to connect you with Brian and Gabby. And I will send out a follow-up email to everyone that attended or registered for the call. But thank you guys so much.
No, thank you for having us. It was an honor.
Absolutely. Everyone have a great day. We'll see you guys next month for our next mastermind.